Now, multimodalism is something we've talked about before, so I want to review it to start thinking about how we're going to move forward. The idea of multimodal writing, or the multimodal essay, is based on deconstructing the idea of writing itself. Now, the reason we structure essays the way we do is because that is a traditional form that has proven to be effective. In other words, the rules you're taught are not rules specifically. They are traditionally effective strategies and an agreed upon code. We understand, based on what's being said at a certain point, kind of where we are in the arc of an argument. These really ultimately have nothing to do with the writing itself. They're about the presentation of information, and that's the framework to approach multimodal writing. It's one that abandons this idea of an essay should go in a certain order and look like a certain thing, and even necessarily be written as text on a paper. A traditional essay will say, of course you can't include pictures and things like that. Multimodalism basically says, if the picture is going to benefit the essay, what if the essay is about art? You're going to describe the art every time? In other words, to think of it in its simplest form, you're not just cramming whatever your topic is into the same format. You're shaping the actual medium through which you communicate your point, right, based around what's available. All right, so a mode is simply a means of communication. Writing is a mode, speaking is a mode, blah, blah, blah. Multimodalism, then, is using several of these. Okay, so this right here, this has visuals and audio and text, 3 modes. Look at that. You're thinking about, based on what you're doing, if you're talking about music, you probably want something with audio in there. If it's rhetorical analysis, you probably want something visual to look at or read in order to dissect what you're doing. But again, it depends on what it is you're talking about. This is a wide range of things. Podcasts and video essays probably are the most common ones that we actually encounter in our day-to-day lives, but it could be all kinds of things. A graphic novel, it could be a guided discussion, which you're sort of literally, moving the participants through and giving them things as they go towards a certain point. There's a lot of ways to approach it. A presentation or a speech is usually multimodalism. So what you're going to be doing is, as a starting point, is approaching the things we already know. I'm going to suggest some, but if you look at video essays, podcasts, things like that you're interested in, no matter how informal they seem, whether they mean to or not, almost guaranteed they're following essay structure. They're going to start with a hook. They're going to set up the topic, and then they're going to ask a question or make a statement, which they then intend to prove through examples and argument. And at the end, they're going to put it together and conclude with a point. What does this mean? What do we take away? And the point could be lofty. The point could be, the fate of humanity depends on putting aside partisan differences and working together. Or the point could be, that's why the rise of Skywalker is the worst Star Wars thing ever. Or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. They're still generally following that basic structure. Intro, claims, probably subclaims. Multimodalism especially excels in packing in a lot of evidence, because I can be telling you evidence while I'm showing you a second piece at the same time. I can put text on the screen if it's a video essay. If it's a podcast, I can be playing an actual sound clip of my source, not just quoting them, etc. So, key ideas then to think about, though, in whatever format you're using, is you can't just take an essay and stick it in a new format. You can't just put it in a PowerPoint. You can't just read it in a YouTube video. Nobody's going to do that. You have to actually actively think about your audience. And that's one of the best things about it, is it forces you to actually think about, well, if you want it to be even remotely successful, what are people willing to do to engage? What do I need to do to engage them? Do they already care about this topic? And if not, how am I going to make it interesting? So you boil things down into the interesting parts, and you use images and common language to communicate with each other. All right, so that's the basics of multimodalism. It deconstructs the essay. The age we're living in is a multimodal age, and it is writing for the 21st century. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like writing, but it is. In fact, it's a more kinetic important form of writing in some ways because it is a new type of language. Is it going to replace traditional writing? Of course not, nor should it. But it is crucial to study it because it will improve your traditional writing. It will vastly improve your traditional essay writing because all you're doing is reshaping and you're thinking rhetorically instead of according to a bunch of random rules that have been hammered into you over time. You can then amplify your points more effectively and reach a broader audience. So that's the basics. From here, we'll start digging into, as I mentioned, some examples, and then you're going to be putting together some very, very basic video essays, and then we'll go from there.